Naomi Williams stood in front of the bathroom mirror of the coffee shop across from what she thought was the Nexus Innovations building, trying to make herself look less like someone who had been awake for 72 hours straight. Her rich brown skin looked dull from exhaustion, and no amount of concealer could hide the dark circles under her eyes. Her natural hair, usually styled in an elegant twist-out, was pulled back into a simple bun because she had not had the energy to do anything more elaborate. At 5 feet 7 inches, Naomi usually carried herself with quiet confidence. But today she felt like she was barely holding it together. The past month had been a nightmare. Naomi had been working as a senior developer at Cloud Tech Solutions, a mid-sized software company where she had spent 4 years building innovative security protocols and machine learning algorithms. She had been the only Black woman on her team and one of only 3 in the entire engineering department. She had worked harder than everyone else, staying late, taking on extra projects, mentoring junior developers, all while dealing with microaggressions and being talked over in meetings. Then, 3 weeks ago, her manager, Richard Stevenson, had called her into his office with a sympathetic expression that immediately made her stomach drop. The company was restructuring. They were eliminating her position. It had nothing to do with her performance, he assured her. She was an excellent developer. They just needed to make some difficult decisions about the budget. Naomi had known it was nonsense. CloudTech had just received $40 million in Series B funding. They were not cutting costs. They were cutting her. And she had a strong suspicion it was because she had reported Richard's inappropriate comments to Human Resources 2 months earlier. With no severance package beyond 2 weeks' pay and no prospects lined up, Naomi had spent every waking hour applying for jobs, reaching out to former colleagues, and trying not to panic about how she would pay rent on her small apartment in Brooklyn. She had student loans, credit card debt from when her mother had been sick last year, and exactly $1,200 in her savings account. Then, 4 days ago, she had received an email from Nexus Innovations, a hot new artificial intelligence startup that was revolutionizing the field of predictive analytics. They wanted to interview her for a senior engineering position that paid significantly more than her previous job and offered equity in what analysts predicted would be the next billion-dollar tech company. It was exactly the kind of opportunity Naomi needed. The problem was that she had been so stressed and sleep-deprived while preparing for this interview that she had barely eaten, barely slept, and was now running on nothing but coffee, anxiety, and determination. She checked her phone. 8:53 in the morning. Her interview was at 9:00 sharp. She had 7 minutes to get across the street, find the right office, and compose herself enough to seem like a competent professional rather than someone who was one missed meal away from a breakdown. Naomi grabbed her portfolio bag, checked that her resume copies were inside, and pushed through the coffee shop door into the bright November morning. The address she had written down was 34 West 47th Street, floor 22. She had looked up the building online and seen that it was a modern glass tower that housed multiple companies. Nexus Innovations occupied the entire 22nd floor. The street was busy with morning commuters, and Naomi wove through the crowd, her heels clicking on the pavement. She felt lightheaded but attributed it to nerves and lack of food. She had tried to eat a protein bar that morning but had only managed a few bites before her stomach had rebelled. As she approached the glass tower, she noticed 2 buildings on the Procket. Same block that looked almost identical. Both were modern, both had revolving doors, both had addresses in the 30-something range on West 47th Street. In her exhausted state, Naomi chose the building on the left, assuming it was the right one. She pushed through the revolving door into a sleek marble lobby with high ceilings and modern art on the walls. A security desk sat in the center, but the guard was dealing with a delivery person and waved vaguely toward the elevators when Naomi held up her portfolio as if to indicate she had an appointment. The elevator was empty when Naomi stepped inside. She pressed the button for the 22nd floor and leaned against the wall, closing her eyes for just a moment. The elevator rose smoothly and silently. When it dinged and the doors opened, Naomi straightened her navy blue blazer, smoothed her pencil skirt, and stepped out into a corridor that was much quieter and more elegant than she had expected for a tech startup. The walls were paneled in rich, dark wood. Expensive-looking paintings lined the hallway. The carpet was thick and plush. Everything screamed old money and corporate power. which seemed odd for a young AI company that probably had beanbags and ping-pong tables in their office. But Naomi was too focused on not passing out to think too deeply about it. She walked down the hallway until she reached a set of double doors with frosted glass. There was no company name on the door, just the number 2203. This had to be it. Naomi took a deep breath, knocked twice, and when she heard a deep male voice say something in Italian that sounded like "come in," she turned the handle and pushed the door open. The office was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Manhattan skyline. A massive desk made of dark mahogany sat in the center of the room, and behind it stood a man who was absolutely not the young tech entrepreneur Naomi had been expecting to meet. He was tall, probably 6 feet 3 inches, with broad shoulders filling out an impeccably tailored charcoal suit. His dark hair was styled perfectly with just a touch of gray at the temples. His face was all sharp angles and strong features, with gray eyes that seemed to see everything. He looked to be in his early 40s, and he carried himself with the kind of quiet authority that made it clear he was used to being in charge. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The man's eyes traveled over Naomi, taking in her professional attire, her exhausted face, the portfolio bag clutched in her hand. His expression shifted from surprise to something else, something Naomi could not quite identify. Concern, maybe, or curiosity. "I am so sorry I am late," Naomi said, her words tumbling out quickly. "Traffic was terrible, and I could not find parking, and I know that is not a good excuse, but I promise I am normally very punctual and professional, and I am really excited about this opportunity. I have reviewed all the materials you sent about the position, and I think my experience with machine learning algorithms and security protocols would be a perfect fit for what Nexus Innovations is trying to achieve, and I brought copies of my resume and a portfolio of some of my recent projects that demonstrate my coding skills and my ability to work with cross-functional teams." She was babbling. She knew she was babbling, but she could not seem to stop. The room was starting to spin slightly, and she was having trouble focusing on the man's face. She fumbled with her portfolio bag, trying to pull out her resume, but her hands were shaking. "I apologize for the state I am in," Naomi continued, her voice sounding strange and distant to her own ears. "I have been working really hard to prepare for this interview, and I have not had much sleep, but I am completely capable of performing at the highest level, and I am confident that I can contribute significantly to your team. I have been developing software for 6 years, and I specialize in artificial intelligence applications, particularly in predictive modeling and natural language processing, which I understand are core focus areas for Nexus Innovations." The man had moved from behind his desk now. He was walking toward her slowly, his expression changing from curious to concerned. Naomi tried to take a step forward to hand him her resume, but her vision blurred and her legs suddenly felt like they could not support her weight. "I am fine," she heard herself saying, even though she was clearly not fine. "I just need a moment. I did not eat breakfast, which was stupid. But I will be completely professional once we start the interview. I am very passionate about this opportunity, and I really need this job because I just lost my previous position due to restructuring, which was completely not performance-related, and I have rent to pay and student loans and—" The room tilted sideways. Naomi felt her knees buckle. She heard the man say something in Italian, his voice sharp with alarm, and then strong arms caught her before she hit the floor. The last thing she registered before everything went black was the scent of expensive cologne and the feeling of being lifted gently, carefully, as if she weighed nothing at all. When Naomi's eyes finally fluttered open, she had no idea how much time had passed. It could have been minutes or hours. She was lying on a leather couch in the same office, but now she was covered with a soft cashmere blanket. The man from before was sitting in a chair he had pulled up next to the couch, and he was holding her hand. Actually holding it, his large, warm hand wrapped around hers, his thumb moving in small, soothing circles against her palm. For a moment, Naomi just stared at him, trying to make sense of what was happening. Then reality crashed back in. The job interview. She had fainted. During her job interview, she had fainted in front of the hiring manager for Nexus Innovations and completely destroyed her chances of getting this position. "Oh my God," Naomi whispered, mortification flooding through her. She tried to sit up, but the man's other hand came to rest gently on her shoulder, keeping her in place. "Stay still," he said, his voice accented with Italian inflections that made each word sound like music. "You need to rest. When did you last eat?" "I am so sorry," Naomi said, tears of frustration and embarrassment stinging her eyes. "I am so sorry. I completely ruined this interview. I understand if you do not want to hire me now. I promise I am not usually like this. I am a very competent professional, and I never faint, and I am mortified that this happened." The man studied her face for a long moment, his gray eyes serious. Then he spoke quietly. "What is your name?" "Naomi Williams," she answered automatically. "I submitted my resume and portfolio last week for the senior engineering position. I have 6 years of experience in software development with a primaris focus on artificial intelligence and machine learning. I graduated with honors from MIT with a degree in computer science, and I have led multiple successful projects, including a security protocol system that reduced data breaches by 47%. The man's expression shifted to something that might have been amusement, except his eyes remained concerned. "Naomi Williams," he repeated. "Tell me, what company did you think you were interviewing with today?" "Nexus Innovations," Naomi said, confused by the question. "The artificial intelligence startup. Your company. The position is for a senior engineering role working on predictive analytics algorithms. The interview is scheduled for 9 o'clock this morning at 34 West 47th Street, floor 22. The man's jaw tightened slightly. He was quiet for a moment, and then he spoke very carefully. "Miss Williams, this is not Nexus Innovations. This is not a technology startup, and I am not someone who hires software engineers." Naomi's confusion deepened. "What?" "But the address." The email said floor 22 at 34 West 47th Street. "That address is in the building next door," the man explained gently. "You are in 36 West 47th Street. Same floor number, wrong building. An easy mistake to make, especially when someone is as exhausted as you clearly are." The full horror of the situation hit Naomi like a physical blow. Wrong building. She had walked into the wrong building. She had barged into some random person's office and delivered a manic speech about her qualifications and then fainted on his floor. She had missed her actual interview at Nexus Innovations, and there was no way they would reschedule after she simply failed to show up. "Oh no," Naomi breathed, her voice breaking. "Oh no, no, no. What time is it?" The man glanced at his watch. 9:47. Naomi closed her eyes, defeat washing over her. The interview was over. They had probably already moved on to the next candidate. She had lost this opportunity because she had been too tired and too stressed to read an address correctly. All that preparation, all that hope, completely wasted. "I need to go," she said, trying again to sit up. The man's hand was still on her shoulder, still keeping her in place. "You are not going anywhere until you have eaten something and convinced me that you can walk without collapsing," he said firmly. "When did you last have a meal?" "Yesterday morning," Naomi admitted. "Maybe. I do not really remember." "Yesterday morning," the man repeated, and now there was steel in his voice. "You have not eaten in over 24 hours. You are clearly running on no sleep. And you fainted hard enough that I thought you might have injured yourself. You are staying right here until I know you are safe." "I appreciate your concern," Naomi said, trying to sound professional despite the fact that she was lying on this stranger's couch covered in his blanket while he held her hand. "But I have already taken up enough of your time. I am sure you have important meetings and work to do. I will just collect my things and go." "My schedule can wait," the man said. "You cannot." "Who are you?" Naomi asked, finally voicing the question that had been building in her mind. "If this is not Nexus Innovations, what company is this?" The man was quiet for a moment, and something shifted in his expression. When he spoke, his voice was measured. "My name is Dante Moretti, and this is not a company office. This is my personal office, where I conduct private business." "Private business," Naomi repeated. "What kind of private business?" Dante Moretti's eyes held hers steadily. "The kind that most people do not ask questions about." The implications of that statement hung in the air between them. Naomi's exhausted brain was trying to process what he was telling her. Private business that people do not ask questions about. an office with no company name on the door. A man who carried himself with the kind of authority that suggested real power, dangerous power. The expensive paintings, the security presence downstairs, the way he had spoken Italian earlier, as if it were his first language. "Oh," Naomi said quietly. "Oh, yes," Dante said simply. They looked at each other for a long moment. Naomi knew she should probably be frightened. She had accidentally walked into the office of someone who was clearly involved in something illegal, something dangerous. But strangely, she did not feel afraid. Maybe it was the exhaustion dulling her survival instincts, or maybe it was the fact that Dante Moretti was still holding her hand as if she were something precious that needed protection. "I should definitely go," Naomi said, but she made no move to get up. "You should definitely eat first," Dante countered. "And then we are going to talk about why a brilliant woman with a degree from MIT and 6 years of professional experience is working herself into the ground and skipping meals while desperately trying to land a job." "You heard my entire rambling speech," Naomi said, embarrassment flooding her again. "Every word," Dante confirmed. "You are an impressive woman, Naomi Williams. Even while passing out from exhaustion, you managed to give the most thorough job pitch I have ever heard." Despite everything, Naomi felt a small smile tug at her lips. "I am very dedicated to my career." "I can see that," Dante said. "But dedication should not come at the cost of your health." He released her hand, which Naomi found herself missing immediately, and stood up. He walked to his desk and picked up his phone, speaking in rapid Italian to someone on the other end. Naomi caught words that sounded like food and quickly and make sure, but her Italian was non-existent, so she could only guess at what he was saying. When Dante ended the call, he returned to his chair next to the couch. "Marco is bringing food from the restaurant downstairs. It will be here in 10 minutes. You are going to eat, and you are going to rest. And then we are going to have a conversation about what happens next." "What happens next?" Naomi repeated. "I walked into your office by mistake. I fainted on your floor. I think what happens next is that I leave and we both pretend this never occurred." Dante's expression became serious again. "That is not what is going to happen." "Then what?" Naomi asked. Dante leaned forward, his elbows resting on his knees, his gray eyes locked on hers. "I am going to make sure you are taken care of. You are not leaving this office until I know you have eaten a real meal, until I know you have somewhere safe to go, and until I know you are not going to collapse in the middle of the street because you are too proud to accept help." "I do not need help," Naomi said automatically, even though it was clearly a lie. "I am fine. I just had a rough few weeks." "You are not fine," Dante said bluntly. "You are running yourself into the ground, and I am not going to let you. Walk out of here and continue doing that." "Why do you care?" Naomi asked, genuine confusion in her voice. "You do not know me. I accidentally crashed your morning. You do not owe me anything." Dante was quiet for a moment, and when he spoke, his voice was softer. "Because I have seen what happens when good people are pushed too far and have no one to catch them when they fall. And because when you walked through that door looking like you were barely holding yourself together, something in me decided that I was not going to let you face whatever you are dealing with alone." Naomi felt tears prick her eyes again. She was not used to kindness from strangers, especially not from men who looked like they could break someone in half without breaking a sweat. In the past month of job searching and dealing with rejection and fear about her future, no one had asked if she was okay. No one had noticed that she was drowning. "I do not understand," she whispered. "Why would you care about helping me?" Dante's expression softened. "Because sometimes the universe puts people in our path for a reason. You walked into my office by mistake, yes, but maybe it was not a mistake. Maybe it was fate telling both of us that we needed to pay attention." Before Naomi could respond to that strangely profound statement, there was a knock at the door. Dante called out in Italian, and a moment later, a stocky man in an expensive suit entered carrying several bags that smelled absolutely incredible. He set them on Dante's desk, gave Naomi a curious glance, and said something to Dante in Italian that made Dante respond sharply in a tone that suggested he was giving orders. The man, who Naomi assumed was Marco, nodded and left the office, closing the door behind him. Dante gathered the bags and brought them over to a small table near the couch, unpacking containers of pasta, fresh bread, salad, and what looked like chicken marsala. You did not need to order so much, Naomi protested weakly, even as her stomach growled at the sight and smell of real food. I did not know what you liked, so I ordered several options, Dante said. Now sit up. You are going to eat while I make some phone calls. Naomi managed to sit up, keeping the cashmere blanket around her shoulders. Dante handed her a plate and utensils, then returned to his desk. As Naomi began to eat, trying not to shovel food into her mouth too quickly, she heard Dante making phone calls. He spoke in Italian for most of them, his voice low and authoritative, and Naomi got the distinct impression that he was rearranging his entire schedule for the morning. The food was extraordinary. Every bite made Naomi realize just how depleted she had been. The pasta was perfectly cooked, the chicken was tender and flavorful, the bread was warm and crusty. She ate slowly, savoring each taste, and felt strength beginning to return to her body. When she had finished about half of what was on her plate, Naomi looked up to find Dante watching, to her from his desk. He had finished his phone calls and was simply observing her with an expression that was difficult to read. Thank you, Naomi said quietly. For the food. For helping me. For not calling security and having me thrown out of your building. I would never do that, Dante said. You needed help. It is as simple as that. Nothing about this situation is simple, Naomi countered. I walked into the office of someone who admits he conducts private business that people should not ask questions about. I should probably be terrified right now. Are you terrified? Dante asked. Naomi considered the question honestly. No, she admitted. I do not know why, but I am not afraid of you. Good, Dante said. You should never be afraid of me. I would never hurt you, Naomi. That is a promise. The way he said her name, with his Italian accent making it sound like music, sent a shiver through Naomi that had nothing to do with fear and everything to do with something else entirely. Something she definitely should not be feeling for a man who was clearly involved in dangerous business. I still missed my interview, Naomi said, trying to redirect her thoughts. I need to call Nexus Innovations and explain what happened. Maybe they will give me another chance. Call them, Dante said. Use my office phone. Tell them you had a medical emergency. That feels like lying, Naomi said. You fainted from exhaustion and malnutrition, Dante pointed out. That is absolutely a medical emergency. Call them, Naomi. Advocate for yourself. You deserve that opportunity. Naomi picked up Dante's office phone with shaking hands and dialed the number for Nexus Innovations. A receptionist answered, and Naomi explained that she had been scheduled for an interview that morning but had experienced a medical emergency. The receptionist was sympathetic but firm. They had already moved forward with other candidates. Perhaps Miss Williams could apply again in the future when they had another opening. When Naomi hung up, she felt the last of her hope deflate. That was it. Her big opportunity was gone. She was back to square one with no job, no prospects, and no idea how she was going to pay her rent next month. They said no, Dante said, reading her expression. Naomi nodded, not trusting herself to speak without crying. Dante stood and walked over to where Naomi sat on the couch. He crouched down in front of her, so they were at eye level. Listen to me, Naomi Williams. This is not the end of your story. This is just a setback. You are talented, you are brilliant, and you are going to find something even better than Nexus Innovations. You do not know that, Naomi said, her voice breaking. Yes, I do, Dante said firmly. I know it because I have been watching you for the past hour, and I have seen your strength, your determination, and your resilience. I know it because even while passing out, you were fighting to stay composed and professional. You do not give up easily. That quality will take you far. I do not have the luxury of not giving up, Naomi said. I have bills to pay and debt to cover. I need a job, and I needed it yesterday. Dante was quiet for a moment, clearly thinking. Then he spoke carefully. What if I told you I might have a solution? What kind of solution? Naomi asked warily. I need someone with your skills, Dante said. I have legitimate business interests that require sophisticated data analysis and security protocols. I own several restaurants, a real estate development company, and other ventures that need someone who understands technology and can help protect against cyber threats and financial irregularities. You want to hire me? Naomi said, shocked. You do not even know if I am actually good at what I do. I could have been lying about all my qualifications. You were not lying, Dante said with certainty. Everything you said was true. I can tell when someone is being honest, and you, Naomi Williams, are genuine. But I do not know anything about your businesses, Naomi protested. I do not know what you would need from me. You would be working on the legitimate side of my operations, Dante said. The restaurants, the real estate projects, the investments, everything legal and above board. I need someone who can analyze data, identify risks, and build secure systems. That is exactly what you told me you specialize in. Naomi's mind was spinning. This was not what she had expected. She had come here thinking she was interviewing for a tech startup position. Instead, she had accidentally found her way to a man who was offering her a job despite knowing nothing about her except what she had babbled while trying not to pass out. I do not understand why you would offer this to me, Naomi said. We just met. Under very strange circumstances. Because I trust my instincts, Dante said. And my instincts tell me that you are someone I want on my side. You are smart, you are dedicated, and you need help. I can provide that help. In return, you bring your considerable skills to my legitimate business operations. What about the illegitimate operations? Naomi asked quietly. You said you conduct private business. You would never be involved in that side of things, Dante said immediately. Never. I keep those worlds completely separate. What I am offering you is a legitimate job working on legitimate projects. The salary would be competitive with what Nexus Innovations was offering, probably better. You would have flexibility, resources, and the opportunity to work on interesting problems. And if I say no? Naomi asked. Then I make sure you have a good meal. I give you the name of some contacts who might be hiring, and I wish you the very best in your job search, Dante said. No pressure. No obligations. The offer is genuine, but it is also optional. Naomi looked at Dante Moretti, trying to read his intentions. His gray eyes were steady, honest. He had helped her without expecting anything in return. He had fed her, rearranged his schedule for her, promised to protect her. And now he was offering her a lifeline when she desperately needed one. It would be crazy to say yes. She knew that. Accepting a job from someone who admitted to being involved in dangerous business was absolutely insane. But Naomi was out of options. She was exhausted, scared, and running out of time. I want to say yes, Naomi admitted. But I need to know more. What exactly would my responsibilities be? What would I be working on? And most importantly, can you promise me that I would never be asked to do anything illegal? Dante held her gaze. You would be reporting directly to me. Your primary responsibility would be overseeing the technology infrastructure for my restaurant chain, which includes point-of-sale systems, customer data management, and cybersecurity. You would also consult on my real estate projects, analyzing market data and building predictive models for property investments. Everything you do would be completely legal. I give you my word on that. If anyone ever asks you to do something questionable, you come directly to me, and I handle it. How many restaurants do you own? Naomi asked. 17 throughout Manhattan and Brooklyn, Dante said. All legitimate businesses that employ over 300 people. I also own 6 residential buildings and am developing a mixed-use commercial property in Tribeca. That is actually a significant technology challenge, Naomi said. Her professional interest piqued despite her wariness. Integrating systems across that many locations, ensuring data security, building analytics frameworks. That is real work. Exactly, Dante said. I am not offering you charity. I am offering you a real position doing real work that I genuinely need help with. What is the salary? Naomi asked bluntly. Dante named a figure that made Naomi's eyes widen. It was 30% more than Nexus Innovations had been offering. It was more money than she had ever made in her life. That is too much, she said automatically. That is what the position is worth, Dante corrected. You have a degree from MIT and 6 years of experience. You are worth every dollar. Plus, you get full benefits, 4 weeks of paid vacation, and a technology budget for any equipment you need. Why are you doing this? Naomi asked again, still not quite believing this was happening. Dante stood and returned to his desk, leaning against it with his arms crossed. When I was 23, I was in a very difficult situation. I had responsibilities I had not asked for, dangers I had not anticipated, and no one to help me navigate it all. Someone took a chance on me when they did not have to. They saw potential in me and gave me an opportunity. I have never forgotten that. Maybe it is time I paid that forward. And if I mess up? Naomi asked. If I am not as good as you think I am, then we figure it out together, Dante said. But I do not think that is going to happen. I think you are going to exceed every expectation. Naomi took a deep breath. This was possibly the most impulsive decision she had ever made. But her gut was telling her to trust this man who had caught her when she fell and refused to let her face her struggles alone. Okay, she said. I will do it. I will take the job. Something shifted in Dante's expression, a warmth entering his eyes that had not been there before. Good, he said. Welcome to the team, Naomi Williams. When do I start? Naomi asked. How about we give you a few days to rest and recover first? Dante suggested. Take the weekend. Sleep as much as you can. Eat regular meals. On Monday morning, come to this building at 9 o'clock. I will introduce you to Marco, who manages my restaurant operations, and you can start getting familiar with the systems. This building? Naomi said. Not the restaurants? This is my headquarters, Dante explained. I have a suite of offices here on the 22nd floor. You will have your own office, your own equipment, and direct access to me whenever you need it. My own office, Naomi repeated, still trying to process that this was really happening. I have never had my own office before. You have one now, Dante said. And Naomi, I want to be very clear about something. You work for me, yes, but you are also under my protection. If anyone gives you trouble, if anyone makes you uncomfortable, if you ever feel unsafe, you come directly to me, immediately. Understand? I understand, Naomi said, touched by his protectiveness. But I can take care of myself. I have been doing it for a long time. I do not doubt that, Dante said, but you do not have to do it alone anymore. Those words hit Naomi harder than she expected. She had been alone for so long. After her father had died when she was 12 and her mother had passed away from cancer 3 years ago, Naomi had learned to rely only on herself. She had no siblings, few close friends, and a string of disappointing relationships with men who could not handle her ambition and intelligence. The idea that someone, especially someone as powerful as Dante Moretti, was offering to be in her corner was almost overwhelming. Thank you, Naomi said quietly, for everything, for catching me, for feeding me, for offering me this opportunity. I will not let you down. I know you will not, Dante said. Now, let me call you a car to take you home. You need rest. I can take the subway, Naomi protested. Dante gave her a look that suggested that argument was not going to work. You just fainted an hour ago. You are taking a car. I will have my driver take you to Brooklyn and make sure you get inside your apartment safely. That is really not necessary. Naomi tried again. Humor me, Dante said. Consider it your first day of working for someone who takes the safety of his employees very seriously. Naomi could see there was no point in arguing. Besides, the idea of not having to navigate the subway system in her current state was honestly a relief. Fine, she conceded. Thank you. Dante made another phone call, again in Italian, and within minutes, Marco returned to inform them that the car was ready downstairs. Dante helped Naomi gather her portfolio bag and made sure she had eaten enough. As they walked toward the elevator, Naomi felt steadier on her feet but still slightly overwhelmed by everything that had happened in the past 2 hours. When they reached the elevator, Dante pressed the button and then turned to Naomi. One more thing, he said. I want you to have my personal number. If you need anything between now and Monday, anything at all, you call me. Day or night. He pulled out his phone and asked for Naomi's number. She gave it to him, and a moment later, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It simply said, "This is Dante. You are not alone anymore." Naomi looked up at him, emotions swirling in her chest that she could not quite name. Thank you, she said again, because it seemed like all she could say. See you Monday, Naomi, Dante said. and the way he said her name made something flutter in her stomach. "See you Monday," she echoed. As the elevator doors closed and Naomi descended to the lobby where Dante's driver was waiting, she realized that her life had just changed completely. She had walked into the wrong building that morning, desperate and exhausted and barely holding herself together. And somehow, impossibly, she had found exactly what she needed. Maybe not in the way she had expected, but maybe that was how fate worked. Maybe the best things in life came from the mistakes you made while trying to find something else entirely. The weekend passed in a blur of sleep, food, and trying to process what had happened. Naomi called her best friend from college, Maya, and told her an edited version of events, leaving out the part about Dante being involved in dangerous business. Maya was skeptical but supportive, making Naomi promise to be careful and to keep her updated. Naomi also took the time to research Dante Moretti more thoroughly. She found that he owned exactly the businesses he had described. The restaurants were highly rated, the real estate ventures were successful, and everything appeared legitimate on the surface. There were some vague online rumors about his family connections and hints at a less legal side of his operations, but nothing concrete. Naomi decided that as long as she was only working on the legitimate projects, she could maintain her integrity. On Monday morning, Naomi woke up early, actually feeling rested for the first time in months. She chose a professional outfit, a burgundy blouse and black pants, and styled her natural hair in an elegant twist-out. As she looked at herself in the mirror, she saw a woman who looked confident and capable, not the exhausted wreck who had fainted in a stranger's office 3 days earlier. When Naomi arrived at 36 West 47th Street at 8:50 in the morning, the security guard recognized her and waved her through with a friendly smile. She took the elevator to the 22nd floor, and this time, when the doors opened, she was not stumbling through in a confused haze. She was here deliberately, as an employee, ready to prove herself. The double doors to what she now knew was Dante's private office were open. She could see him inside, talking on the phone in Italian while reviewing documents on his desk. He looked up when she appeared in the doorway, and his expression shifted immediately into something warm. He held up one finger, indicating he would just be a moment, and finished his call. Then he stood and walked over to greet her. "Naomi Williams, punctual and professional, just as you promised you would be," he said with a slight smile. "I aim to keep my promises," Naomi replied. "As do I," Dante said. "Come, let me show you your office, and then we will get you set up with everything you need." He led her, down the hallway, to another set of doors. When he opened them, Naomi stepped into a spacious office with large windows, a beautiful desk, comfortable seating, and brand new computer equipment that was even better than what she had requested on her wish list. "This is incredible," Naomi said, genuinely amazed. "You need good tools to do good work," Dante said. "Everything here is yours. The computer is top of the line, the software licenses are already set up, and you have full administrative access to all my business systems. Marco will be here in about 20 minutes to walk you through the restaurant operations, and I have scheduled a meeting for this afternoon with my real estate team." "You set all this up in 3 days?" Naomi asked, impressed. "I told you I take care of my people," Dante said simply. "Now, before Marco gets here, I want to make sure you have eaten breakfast." "I ate before I left home," Naomi assured him. "Good," Dante said. "That needs to become a non-negotiable habit. Breakfast every morning, lunch every afternoon, dinner every evening. You are not skipping meals anymore." "Yes, sir," Naomi said, slightly amused by his authoritative tone. Dante's eyes darkened slightly at the phrase, "yes, sir," and Naomi felt heat rise in her cheeks. She had not meant it in any kind of suggestive way, but the way Dante was looking at her suggested he had heard it differently. "Just Dante," he said, his voice slightly rougher. "You call me Dante." "Okay, Dante," Naomi said, and felt something electric pass between them. Before either of them could say anything else, Marco appeared in the doorway. "Boss, you wanted me to brief Miss Williams on the restaurant systems?" he said in accented English. "Yes," Dante said, seeming to shake himself out of whatever moment they had just shared. "Marco, this is Naomi Williams. She is my new technology director. You are going to give her full access to everything and answer all her questions. Treat her with the same respect you would show me. Of course, boss, Marco said, then turned to Naomi with a genuine smile. Welcome, Miss Williams. I have been looking forward to meeting you. The boss has told us we are to give you anything you need and make your job as easy as possible. Please, call me Naomi, she said, returning his smile. As Marco began walking Naomi through the details of the restaurant operations, explaining their current systems and the challenges they had been facing, Naomi felt herself settling into professional mode. This was what she was good at: analyzing problems, identifying solutions, building efficient systems. She asked detailed questions, took notes, and immediately began formulating ideas for improvements. Dante watched from the doorway for a few minutes, observing the way Naomi interacted with Marco, the confidence and competence she displayed. He had made the right choice. She was exactly what his operations needed, and maybe, though he would not admit it yet, exactly what he needed, personally as well. Over the next 2 weeks, Naomi threw herself into her work. She analyzed every aspect of Dante's restaurant operations, identified inefficiencies in their current systems, and began implementing a comprehensive technology overhaul. She was good at her job, exceptionally good, and it showed. Revenue increased, data security improved, and Dante's managers were effusive in their praise of the new systems she implemented. But beyond the professional success, something else was developing between Naomi and Dante. They spent hours together, reviewing reports, discussing strategy, and slowly getting to know each other. Naomi learned that Dante was more than the dangerous Mafia boss the rumors suggested. He was intelligent, thoughtful, and surprisingly principled in his own way. He treated his employees with respect. He supported local charities, and he had a code of honor that governed how he conducted business. Dante, for his part, found himself increasingly drawn to Naomi. She was brilliant and beautiful, and utterly unlike anyone he had ever known. She challenged him, questioned him, and was not intimidated by his reputation or his authority. She had her own strength, her own sense of right and wrong, and she made it clear that she would never compromise her integrity, regardless of who she worked for. It was precisely what Dante found irresistible about her. One evening, about 3 weeks after Naomi had started working for Dante, they were in his office, reviewing proposals for his Tribeca development project. It was late, after 8 o'clock, and most of the staff had gone home. They had ordered dinner from one of Dante's restaurants, and they were eating while working, something that had become a comfortable routine. This data does not make sense, Naomi said, frowning at her computer screen. The market analysis suggests this property should be valued much higher than what the seller is asking. Why would they take such a loss? Dante leaned over her shoulder to look at the screen, and Naomi was acutely aware of his proximity, the warmth of his body, the scent of his cologne. They had maintained professional boundaries carefully over the past weeks, but the attraction between them was undeniable and growing stronger every day. Because they are being pressured to sell, Dante said quietly. Someone wants that property, and they are using less than ethical methods to force the sale. Your less than ethical methods? Naomi asked, turning her head to look at him. Dante met her eyes steadily. No, I do not operate that way. I make fair offers and I play by the rules when it comes to real estate. But not everyone does. So what are you going to do? Naomi asked. I am going to make a better offer directly to the seller, Dante said. And I am going to make it clear that if they sell to me, they will have my protection from whoever is pressuring them. You are going to protect them, Naomi said, not threaten them. I protect people, Naomi, Dante said softly. It is what I do. Sometimes through business deals, sometimes through other means, but I protect what is mine. And am I yours to protect? Naomi asked, the question slipping out before she could stop it. Dante's eyes darkened. From the moment you walked into my office and collapsed in front of me, you became mine to protect, he said. The job is professional, but the protection is personal. Dante, Naomi whispered, not sure what to say. He raised his hand, hesitated for just a moment, and then gently cupped her cheek. I know this is complicated, he said. I know you work for me, and I know my life is dangerous, but I need you to know something. What I feel for you, it is not something I can ignore. It is not something I want to ignore. I feel it too, Naomi admitted, her voice barely audible. But I do not know if this is a good idea. It is probably a terrible idea, Dante agreed. But some of the best things in life come from terrible ideas. You taught me that, when you walked into the wrong building and changed everything. Before Naomi could respond, Dante leaned down and kissed her. It was gentle at first, a question more than a demand, giving her the opportunity to pull away if she wanted to. But Naomi did not want to pull away. She had been fighting this attraction for weeks, telling herself it was inappropriate and complicated and wrong. But in this moment, with Dante's lips on hers and his hand cradling her face as if she were precious, none of those reasons mattered. She kissed him back, and the gentleness shifted into something more intense. Dante's arms came around her, pulling her up from her chair and against his chest. Naomi's hands fisted in his shirt, holding on as the kiss deepened. It was the kind of kiss that felt like a promise, like a claim, like the beginning of something that could not be taken back. When they finally broke apart, both of them breathing hard, Dante rested his forehead against hers. "This changes things," he said. "I know," Naomi replied. "Are you okay with that?" Dante asked. "Because if you are not, we stop right here. You keep your job, we maintain professional boundaries, and we pretend this did not happen. I will never push you into something you do not want." Naomi looked into Dante's gray eyes and saw nothing but sincerity. He meant what he said. He would walk away if she asked him to, even though she could see how much it would cost him. That kind of respect, that kind of consideration, was something Naomi had never experienced before. "I do not want to pretend it did not happen," Naomi said. "I want to see where this goes. If you are willing to deal with all the complications that come with being involved with me." Dante smiled. A real, genuine smile that transformed his usually serious face. "Tesoro, I have dealt with complications my entire life. You are the best kind of complication I could ask for." "What did you just call me?" Naomi asked. "Tesoro," Dante repeated. "It means treasure in Italian, because that is what you are to me. Something precious, something worth protecting, something I intend to keep." Naomi felt tears sting her eyes at the simple honesty in his words. She was not used to being valued like this, to being seen as precious. Most of the men she had dated had been intimidated by her intelligence or frustrated by her ambition. Dante celebrated both those things. He wanted her exactly as she was. The next few months were some of the happiest of Naomi's life. She continued to excel in her position, transforming Dante's business operations and proving herself invaluable. But beyond work, her relationship with Dante deepened in ways she had not anticipated. He was attentive and protective without being controlling. He supported her career goals while also making it clear that she was his priority. He introduced her to his family, his inner circle, the people who mattered most to him. Naomi met Dante's mother, Elena Moretti, an elegant woman in her late 60s who welcomed Naomi with warmth and made it clear that she approved of the woman who had captured her son's heart. She met Dante's younger sister, Francesca, who worked as a lawyer and became one of Naomi's close friends. She met the men who worked for Dante, who treated her with respect and deference that made it clear Dante had made his feelings known. But Naomi was also gradually learning more about the other side of Dante's life, the side he had promised she would never be directly involved in. She was not naive. She knew Dante had connections to organized crime. She knew some of the business he conducted was illegal. She knew there were dangers associated with being part of his world. What she had not anticipated was how fiercely protective Dante would be of keeping her separate from all of that. He never discussed his illegal activities in front of her. He made sure she only worked on legitimate projects. When there were meetings or situations that involved the dangerous side of his operations, Naomi was kept far away. For a while, that arrangement worked. Naomi could tell herself that what she did not know did not affect her. She could focus on her job, her relationship with Dante, and the happiness she had found in this unexpected life. But reality had a way of forcing confrontations, and eventually, the two sides of Dante's world collided in a way neither of them could ignore. It happened on a Thursday evening in early March, about 5 months after Naomi had started working for Dante. She was leaving the office later than usual, having stayed to finish a report. Dante had left an hour earlier for what he described vaguely as a business meeting. Marco had offered to have a driver take Naomi home, but she had declined, wanting the walk to the subway to clear her head. As Naomi walked down the street, her phone buzzed with a text from Dante. "Stay inside the building. Do not leave. I am sending Marco to get you now." Before Naomi could process that message or respond, a black SUV pulled up next to her on the street. The back door opened, and a man she did not recognize leaned out. "You are Naomi Williams," he said. It was not a question. Instinct screamed at Naomi to run, but before she could move, the man had grabbed her arm and was pulling her toward the vehicle. She screamed, tried to fight, but there were two more men inside the SUV who helped drag her in. The door slammed shut, and the vehicle sped away from the curb. Naomi's heart was pounding so hard she thought it might explode. "Who are you?" she demanded, trying to keep her voice steady. "What do you want?" "We want to send a message to Dante Moretti," the man who had grabbed her said. "He has been interfering with our operations. We need him to understand that actions have consequences." "I do not know what you are talking about," Naomi said, which was at least partially true. "I work in technology. I do data analysis for his restaurants." "You are more than that," the man said. "Everyone knows you are Moretti's woman. That makes you valuable. If you hurt me, he will kill you," Naomi said with more confidence than she felt. The man smiled coldly. "Maybe. But first, he will have to find you." The SUV drove for what felt like hours, but was probably only 20 minutes. Naomi tried to memorize the route, looking for landmarks or street signs that might help her figure out where they were taking her. Eventually, the vehicle pulled into a warehouse district and stopped inside a large, abandoned building. The men pulled Naomi out of the SUV and led her to a small room with a metal chair. They pushed her into it and tied her wrists behind her back. One of them took her phone and wallet, removing any way she might be able to call for help or be tracked. "Dante is going to come for me," Naomi said, trying to project calm even though she was terrified. "And when he does, this is not going to end well for any of you." "Maybe," the man said. "Or maybe he will decide you are not worth the war this would start. Either way, we get what we want. Either Moretti backs off and you go free, or he refuses and we send you back to him in pieces. His choice." They left her alone in the room, closing and locking the door behind them. Naomi sat in the darkness, her mind racing. She had known being with Dante carried risks. She had known his world was dangerous. But knowing something intellectually and experiencing it viscerally were two very different things. She thought about Dante receiving word that she had been taken. She thought about how he would react, what he would do. She knew him well enough by now to know he would not negotiate. He would come for her, and he would bring violence with him. The question was whether he would get to her before these men decided she was more useful dead than alive. Naomi had no idea how much time passed. It could have been 1 hour, or 3, or 5. She tried to stay calm, tried to think clearly about whether there was any way she could escape on her own. But her wrists were tied securely, the room had no windows, and she could hear men moving around outside the door. Then, suddenly, there were sounds of shouting, gunfire, men yelling in Italian and English. The door to Naomi's room burst open, and she braced herself, not knowing if it was her captors or her rescuers. It was Dante. He filled the doorway, his suit jacket gone, his white shirt stained with blood that she prayed was not his. His face was a mask of barely controlled rage until his eyes landed on Naomi. Then his expression shifted instantly to relief so profound it was almost painful to witness. "Naomi," he breathed, crossing the room in 3 long strides. He dropped to his knees in front of her chair and began working at the ropes binding her wrists. "Did they hurt you? Tell me they did not hurt you." "I am okay," Naomi said, her voice shaking. "I am okay, Dante. They just wanted to use me to send you a message." Dante got the ropes untied and gently helped Naomi stand. His hands moved over her arms, her shoulders, checking for injuries. When he was satisfied that she was physically unharmed, he pulled her into his arms and held her so tightly she could barely breathe. "I am sorry," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "I am so sorry, Naomi. I should have protected you better. I should have made sure you were safe." "This is not your fault," Naomi said, even though part of her was angry with him for putting her in danger in the first place. You came for me. That is what matters. Always, Dante said fiercely. I will always come for you, no matter what it costs, no matter what I have to do. You are mine, and I protect what is mine. Marco appeared in the doorway. Boss, we need to move. Police will be here soon. Dante nodded and kept his arm around Naomi as they left the room. The warehouse was a scene of chaos. Several men were on the ground, injured or dead. Dante's men were moving efficiently, cleaning up, removing evidence. It was clear this was not the first time they had done this kind of cleanup operation. Naomi tried not to look too closely at the bodies as Dante led her outside to where his car was waiting. He helped her into the back seat and slid in beside her, keeping her close against his side. The car pulled away quickly, and only then did Naomi start to shake. The adrenaline was wearing off, and the reality of what had just happened was hitting her. She had been kidnapped. She had been tied up in a warehouse. Men had died tonight, possibly because of her. The carefully maintained separation between Dante's legitimate business and his dangerous world had completely collapsed. You are safe now, Dante murmured, his arms tightening around her. You are safe, Tesoro. I have you. I need to know, Naomi said quietly. I need to know what you did to those men. Dante was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke, his voice cold. I did what needed to be done to get you back, and I made sure they understood that anyone who touches you signs their own death warrant. You killed them, Naomi said. It was not a question. Not all of them, Dante said. Some will live, but they will carry the scars and the memory of what happens when someone threatens what is mine. Naomi did not know how to feel about that. She was not naive enough to be shocked that Dante was capable of violence, but having it confirmed so directly, knowing that people had died tonight because of her, was difficult to process. I do not know if I can do this, Naomi whispered. I do not know if I can be part of this world. Dante's arms loosened slightly, giving her space. If you want to walk away, I will not stop you, he said, and Naomi could hear the pain in his voice. I will make sure you are protected. I will set you up with a new job, a new life if necessary, but I will not force you to stay in a situation that makes you uncomfortable or afraid. I do not want to walk away from you, Naomi said, but I also cannot pretend that what just happened is okay. I cannot pretend that being kidnapped and nearly killed is just part of dating someone like you. You are right, Dante said. It is not okay. And I am going to make changes to make sure it never happens again. Increased security, different protocols, whatever it takes to keep you safe. That is not enough, Naomi said. I need more than security measures. I need to know that you are actively trying to move away from the dangerous side of your business. I need to know that you want a different life, not just better protection for the life you already have. Dante was quiet for a long moment, clearly thinking. Then he spoke carefully. I cannot walk away from my family's business overnight. There are obligations, responsibilities, relationships that have been built over generations. But I can start transitioning. I can focus more on the legitimate operations and less on the other side. I can work toward a future where what happened tonight becomes impossible because I am no longer involved in the kind of business that creates those enemies. Can you really do that? Naomi asked. Can you really change your life like that? For you, Dante said, I can try. I do not know if I can be completely legitimate, but I can move in that direction. I can make the legitimate businesses my priority and slowly extract myself from the rest. It will take time, but if that is what you need, then that is what I will do. Naomi looked at Dante's face in the dim light of the car. She could see he meant what he said. He would try to change for her. The question was whether she was willing to stay and see if he could actually do it. I need time, Naomi said. I need time to process what happened and figure out what I want. Take all the time you need, Dante said. I am not going anywhere. The car pulled up in front of Naomi's apartment building. Dante insisted on walking her upstairs and checking every room before he would leave. He also positioned 2 of his men outside her building for protection, despite Naomi's protests that it was unnecessary. At her door, Dante cupped her face gently. I love you, he said simply. I have loved you since you walked into my office barely conscious and still trying to give a professional presentation. I love your strength, your intelligence, your integrity, and I am going to prove to you that I can be the man you deserve, even if it takes me the rest of my life." Tears slipped down Naomi's cheeks. "I love you too," she whispered. "That is why this is so hard. Because I love you enough to want you to be better, to want us to have a real future that is not built on violence and danger. We will have that," Dante promised. "I swear to you, we will have that." He kissed her gently, a soft promise of devotion, and then he left. Naomi locked her door and slid down against it, finally allowing herself to cry. She cried from fear, from relief, from exhaustion, from love, from frustration. She cried until she had no tears left, and then she dragged herself to bed and slept for 12 hours straight. Over the next few weeks, Naomi and Dante navigated a careful path forward. Naomi continued working for him, but she also set clear boundaries about what she would and would not be involved in. Dante, true to his word, began the slow process of transitioning his focus to legitimate business. He turned over control of some of his illegal operations to trusted associates. He invested more heavily in his restaurants and real estate ventures. He started building relationships with legitimate business leaders and distancing himself from the criminal elements that had defined his family for generations. It was not easy. There were people who resisted the changes Dante was making. There were rivals who saw his transition as weakness and tried to take advantage. But Dante was strategic and patient, and slowly, steadily, he built a new foundation for his life. 6 months after Naomi had been kidnapped, Dante came to her apartment on a Friday evening with a proposal. Not a marriage proposal, though Naomi could see in his eyes that he was thinking about that for their future. This was a different kind of proposal. "I want to start a foundation," Dante said. "A legitimate charitable organization that focuses on helping young people from difficult backgrounds get access to education and job opportunities. I want to use some of the money I have made, some of the resources I have access to actually do something good. And I want you to help me build it." Naomi looked at him, seeing the sincerity in his face. This was not a gesture meant to manipulate her or to prove something. This was Dante genuinely wanting to create positive change. "Why?" she asked. "Why is this important to you?" "Because you are important to me," Dante said. "And you have shown me that there is more to life than power and control. You have shown me that the real measure of a man is not how feared he is, but how much good he does in the world. I want to be that kind of man for you, and I want to build that kind of legacy with you." "That is a beautiful vision," Naomi said softly. "And yes, I will help you build it." They launched the Moretti Foundation 3 months later, with a mission to provide scholarships, job training, and mentorship to underserved youth. Naomi took a lead role in designing the programs and ensuring they were effective and impactful. Dante used his business connections to secure funding and partnerships. It was not a perfect solution to all the complications in their lives. Dante was still involved in some questionable business, though far less than before. There were still occasional moments of danger, though nothing as terrifying as that night in the warehouse. But overall, their life together was good, better than good. It was meaningful and full of love, and built on mutual respect. 2 years after Naomi had walked into the wrong building and fainted in Dante Moretti's office, they got married in a small ceremony attended by close friends and family. Naomi wore a dress that made her feel like a queen. Dante wore a suit that made him look like the powerful, dangerous, devoted man he was. And when they said their vows to each other, promising to face whatever challenges came their way together, they both knew they meant every word. That is the story of Naomi Williams, the software developer who fainted during what she thought was a job interview and woke up to find that she had accidentally stumbled into the office of an Italian mafia boss who would become her greatest protector and deepest love. Her story proves that sometimes the biggest mistakes lead to the most extraordinary destinies. That sometimes getting lost is exactly how you find what you are really looking for. And that love, real love, can inspire even the most dangerous men to become better versions of themselves. Naomi and Dante's love story reminds us that fate has a sense of humor, that the wrong turn can lead to the right destination, and that when you find someone who catches you when you fall, who feeds you when you are hungry, who protects you when you are vulnerable, and who loves you exactly as you are, you hold on to them with everything you have. If this incredible story moved you, and you want to hear more amazing tales of unexpected love, dangerous romance, and life-changing moments. Make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell. We share new stories every week about real people who discovered that the universe has plans we could never anticipate, and that the most meaningful relationships often begin in the most unlikely ways. What did you think of Naomi and Dante's story? Have you ever made a mistake that turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to you? Would you have taken the job Dante offered? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing how these stories resonate with your own experiences of unexpected love and life-changing decisions. Remember, sometimes the person who saves you is someone you never expected to meet. Sometimes the wrong building is exactly the right place to be. And sometimes fainting during a job interview is the beginning of the most extraordinary love story of your life. Thanks for listening, and we will see you in the next story.